So this is the first of 2 videos that are going to give away 2 of our chapters from our recent course, How to Make a T-Rex on Your iPad using Nomad Sculpt, and both of them are about how to use alphas, which are black and white images that you can use within Nomad Sculpt to be able to add surface detail like skin wrinkles and scales and textures. And in this first video, we're going to learn how to paint them in Procreate on the iPad, and then in the second video, we're going to learn how to use them on top of something like the dinosaur that we make in the course, or one of the dinosaurs. So dive right in and let's see how we make them first of all. So a big part of the tertiary forms is detailing your skin with alphas. And that basically means to get the surface detail that we want, we use a black and white image and we drag it onto the surface, which either gives us bumps or divots or gouges into the surface that look like scales and wrinkles and all of that kind of thing. Now, for this course, I'm going to give you all of the ones I'm showing you here. So you will be able to just load these in, put them in your Nomad Alphas folder, and then reboot Nomad, and it will just appear and you can use all of these. But the powerful thing is that you should be able to do this yourself. So I'm going to show you 1 or 2 different ways to make these, and how I create them. So first of all, what you're going to need is a document. So you're gonna this is Procreate, and I've got I've made a new document. So I've got it set up here. But if you were to start from nothing, you could say new canvas, and you can say at the top here we want a proprietary size. Just to make it easy, we'll just make a small one. So we'll call it 500 pixels by 500 pixels. And say create, and there's our square document. You can make it off square, but quite often square would be the way to do it. Take a layer and the color black and drag that in, drop it in, you've got black color. So remember that white will raise things up, black will keep it flat, or it will ignore it. So you've got a layer of that now. Make another layer, fill it with black. And what we're going to do now is we're going to hide that layer below it and the background. And then I'm going to use selection tool, top left. I'm going to use ellipse, and I'm just going to drag something like that across the middle and then get rid of it. Just drag it off screen and it's gone. And now what I want to do there now is blur that. So come up here to adjustments, Gaussian blur, layer, slide it, and that will just blur it. And I'm going to make another one. Same again, new layer, hide the one we've just done, drag the black into it. I'm going to go selection, rectangle, and I'm going to do similar to the circle, but obviously it's a rectangle. Get rid of it, and then Gaussian blur, layer, blur. And what that means is now whatever we make, we're going to put it underneath one of those 2 gradients, either the square or the circle. And that means we'll never have white go into the edge, because that would always give us a harsh fall off of the brush. So this will always be a gradient off to the side. So for example, we'll make a layer underneath that of pure white, drag that in, and that's what you'd get, which is a blur to an edge. Now, you can see there, it's only grey at the top there, so that's not enough. So to get more, you could easily just go duplicate, just hide the square one, and then duplicate a couple of times if you need to, and then crush them together by pinching and down. And there you can see we've got them quite a lot thicker now because we chose the 3 of them. I'm just going to align it a little bit better. So use freeform and align it like so. So we've got the circular one. What does the black one look like, the square one look like? Maybe a couple more of them to make them really, really solid around the edge. And there we go. We've got either of them to turn off whenever we want, to on or off whenever we want. So the simplest way of doing an alpha, I'll give you a couple of ways to do it. We'll make a new layer. In fact, we'll put that background layer on. We can go new layer, and I'll just take a bog standard, out of the box round brush, not completely all the way up on intensity. I'm just going to make some scales. So one scale that we use a lot is the big scale surrounded by small scales. So if you draw a lot of big scales, like so, I'm not taking a lot of time at all, and then smaller brush around each one makes smaller scales. And you'll see this a lot on dinosaurs. If you get your reference, you'll see there's quite a lot of times. You'll see it actually on chameleons and other lizards in the modern era. So it's quite a common pattern, scale pattern that you'll come across. So you just quickly just following it around and just filling in and keeping. Oops, my fingers are doing strokes on the screen that they shouldn't be doing. Just bring it to the edges. Keep working around. Now, obviously, I'm going quite fast. I've done this brush about 4 times for this course. So, and that's one really useful scale brush. So we'll use something like that when I show you examples of these in action. And I always keep these templates anyway, so we can always refer back to them. But if that's too harsh, what you can do is duplicate that, and then just go to Gaussian Blur and just blur that a little bit, like so. And what that means is that layer now won't be a complete hard edge. And you could, if you wanted to, Gaussian blur the lower one as well. So see how everything's out of focus now? And the more you push that layer, like so, the more blurred, the more soft-edged your scales are going to be. So it might be worth you saving 1 or 2 of them, a few different types, whatever you feel works for you for the scales. And that's all you need for your first set of scales. Then save that out. What I've got in the habit of doing is I just literally save it to my just my normal photo library. So if you look in here, in my photo library, I keep them all in here. And then when I'm ready, I'll just hit select the ones that I want, and then just tell it to send it to files. Come down here, so you want to save to files. And then from there, you would send it to Nomad and to alphas. Now, I'm not going to do it because I've got all of mine saved. So back to Nomad. Back to Procreate. Okay, so we've done one. We'll hide those layers. You don't need to get rid of them. Just do everything in this one document. Now, wrinkles are very simple. So same brush, just any old simple brush. And then just think about how you want your wrinkles to be. So using the pressure sensitivity, go harder and softer, and that'll give you harsher or softer wrinkles. So if you were thinking about a dinosaur's neck, then it would have wrinkles over the top of wrinkles. So bring your lines together like this. You can see how I'm doing like little S shapes. And that's what you'd see on an elephant wrinkles and on a rhino skin wrinkles. So that one's quite useful. So do a couple like that as well. And then what you can do is make that a little bit transparent. You can rotate it a little bit. Like so. And then you can do either do another one the other way like this, or you can simply duplicate that layer and rotate that round like that. Now that, if you look at that, if you zoom out and look at that, that's a patch of wrinkled skin like you would find on a rhino and like you'd find on a dino. So that's a great way just to do crisscross a dino skin, very, very simply. And don't forget, you can add in some complexity by putting pimples in, and that'll give you some little skin blemishes here, there, and everywhere. So that can add it, and you know, that can add a little bit of a nice feature as well. So we'll crush those together and hide them as well. Okay, so what about using photographs? So you can just bring in photographs and use them. So I've got a few saved in here anyway. So I'll go up here to add, insert a photo. And then the ones that I saved to try this with are like crocodile skin here. So this is literally just grabbed off the net. And I've now got a nice crocodile skin with dark, dark inside the scales and lighter on the scales itself. I'll go freeform and just scale it a little bit so it's square. Now it's underneath these layers, so you either want a round one or a square one depending on the type of brush you want. So this one will go a bit more square, and we want to desaturate it. But instead of just going, you could do this basically: hue and saturation, layer, bring the brightness to a certain level, and then desaturate. That's one way of doing it. But instead of doing that, make it so it's automated for every brush that you want to make futuristically. So little plus, go to black, drag the black over the top. Looks a bit odd because you can't see it, but in the layer, hit the little N key. So you want to go to the blend modes and then go all the way to the bottom, and you'll hit saturation. And what that means is now, whenever you put anything below that, it'll be desaturated. Anything above it will be left saturated. So that's a nice, you can name that layer now. So go to rename, and we'll just call that saturation. And that means we know now that we don't have to worry too much about going and desaturating every time. Now, this isn't going to work perfectly because you can see it's got some cast light on it. And obviously, black will be flat or not anything, and white will be up. Now, if you look at here, let me just find, I'm just going to go right to the front with my little red pen. So here, you've got it casting a shadow here. Here, you've got the scale, but a shadow here. Same here, same here, same here. So you could go in and just paint those out. And like here, for example, you're going to have like a hole. So you can do one or two things. So you can either go in with a white brush, so back onto that, or a layer above that layer, go back to white, basic brush, a little bit lower on the intensity, and you can just paint those out by putting in new scales. So wherever you've got that problem, just paint it out like that. So that would work, and just enhance it wherever you want. So that would definitely solve the problem, by then making everything flatter and more even. So you definitely could do that. But you could also clone it. So if we just hide that layer and just go to the coloured layer, look up here, adjustments again, and clone. And wherever you put this, you can clone from it. So if I put it here I'm doing this with my finger, and then just larger brush, like so. I'm cloning that area from here to here. So I want this bit to here. And if you've got a hard edge, you can change your brush. So in here, you can just make it for example, like a spectra. And we'll take this from here and put it up here. Same again from here down to here. And then just work through it that way until you've got, something like a pattern that you want. So the clone brush is quite useful. It's very much the same in Photoshop, so I do use that sometimes. Okay, so the final bit before I show you what these look like is how to paint patches or for the osteoderms or the big scales. So we need a new layer. Keep the brush quite small, and then I'm going to do something called assisted drawing. So up here, canvas, drawing guide, edit drawing guide, symmetry. That means there's a symmetrical line on it now. And then as I'm drawing in here, click into it, and put drawing assist on. And what you'll find is you've got symmetry now. And if you've got symmetry, that means you can make things like scales for the back of the creature. So if I want scales, I want I want a big scale on its back. And then that comes down to this bit, which is a little scoot, which is the like the spike on the edge of the spine, and then another scale. And this might not be clear to you yet if you're not sure about what I'm talking about. So you've got to remember that white is up. So white's going to come up out off the model. So from a grey to a white means a ramp, and that means it's going to get bigger towards the white end. And then here, obviously, where there's a big white bit, you're going to get a spike coming out of the surface. And that goes all the way to black there. So I'm going to use the smudge tool. I'm going to use a low intensity, and that's just going to smudge the back of that. So that would be a nice brush just on its own, exactly as it is, but we can do something better than that. So we can take that, we can duplicate it, crush them two together, duplicate that, and duplicate that. Whoops, I undid one then, didn't I? And there you go, you've got a nice line of them. Which means now, and don't forget you're under your the black layer, and it's the square one. So that one, when you drag that out across the spine, will give you a really nice ridge. And the best way for me to explain that to you is to just jump into Nomad now and show you what I mean. Okay, so you're in Nomad. How do we get those scales to work? Well, you'd be on the dinosaur, and that's what we're going to do in a few minutes. So to emulate that for now, we'll just use a high resolution model. So I'm just taking the sphere that's loaded as default, and I'm just subdividing it up to a higher level. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to go to the one that we want for this is the stamp tool. We want to, one thing I always say is this, just check that your fall off is like a table, flat and low. And then I'm going to choose down at the bottom. You should, if you've loaded all of your alphas in, they should all be there for you. So let's go right to the bottom and start working through a few of them. So first of all, we might have done one that would be, let's say like crocodile scales on the belly. So let's see what that one looks like. And as you can see, good and bad. So what's gone wrong there? So good, because it's worked. It's definitely given us a surface stamp, but symmetry's on. So straight away that solves that one. So symmetry being off has made it better straight away. And it's a little bit too aggressive. So bring the intensity down, and there you go. And that's essentially how we're going to do this next section. It's just going to keep building up like that. And bear in mind, you can't just place them exactly. So you do have to do this, where you're patching it together. So it isn't ideal. You know, it's not like you can lay it out across an entire surface equally. That's a feature that would be lovely if we can get to that stage. You could, in theory, mask it off in an area and then just put them on the area that's not masked. But if you're careful on an organic thing, it's not a huge problem anyway. So let's find another one. In fact, with that one first, hit sub and do that. And you can see that it's actually gone and indented in the surface. You won't need that for dinosaurs, but that option's there. Let's have a look at one of the wrinkle ones. And we'll go, again, really low. And just pull that on. And there you go. You've got really nice wrinkled skin. And you can compound that very, very quickly, like so, by doing it more and more. Too aggressive there, probably, as you can see. But with that one now, if I just use the move tool with that, large move tool, oops, doesn't want to do it, does it? I didn't click it properly. Move tool, and you can see with the paint off, you can basically squidge those muscles together or scales together or wrinkles together. So use the alpha brush and then move the model as you need, and we'll do that on the wrinkled skin quite a lot. Just do a couple more. So we want to go back to stamp, take a new brush. Let's see one that we haven't done. Something like a large scale one like this, and drag that on. You can see a scale pattern there, too aggressive. There we go. And that gives you a nice scale pattern across whichever part of the skin that you want. So that's it. That's how we use alphas. You can actually use them for colour as well. So it wouldn't just be... so you can go into paint mode, change the colour, use the alpha, and let's drag that on. You can see if you've got grab dynamic radius selected, you can use that to draw on, and that's exactly what we're going to do in the section about painting. I hope you're enjoying these videos, and if you are, please consider giving us a thumbs up. It does help us to get in front of other artists who may like this kind of content. This is a chapter that's free from our How to Create a T-Rex course, which is all about how to sculpt dinosaurs on your iPad, or in fact any animals. It's quite useful for all sorts of different uses, the techniques that you'll learn in the course. So there's a link down below if it's something that you might be interested in. And if you do like the content that we're making, then please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you hit the notification bell, we'll let you know when we drop new content, which is quite often a Wednesday and a Friday.